Good evening and welcome to the November 3rd edition of the Spencerport Board of Education. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gilberto is on his way, becoming eventually. So we have quorum. So I have a motion for the agenda. Okay, Mr. Brecken, second. Mr. Stone, all in favor? Okay,
We're going to cut her, so I just texted her asking her to send it in.
So Kate, we're gonna have you unmute yourself. Are you there, Kate?
Yep, I'm here.
So what's your vote for agenda?
Yeah,
6-0.
Motion for the consent agenda.
Okay, motion for consent agenda, Mr. Brecken, second, Mr. Maselli, all in favor? 5 and Kate? Kate?
yeah.
Oh. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be a quick meeting. I'm liking this. Okay, President's report. Again, I don't have much to discuss, except we had a very productive meeting with our introduction to our superintendent search. And that's about all I have to say at this point. So and I reserve the right to add when I remember later as you guys are talking. So, Mr. Kincaid, anything?
I do not have anything to report this week.
Stone?
I did attend the law conference that was hosted by the New York State School Board Association. It's a slightly longer conference than the one I attended from the Monroe County Association, but some of the topics were similar. Some of them were different, and it was good. It was worth my attending it, but it wasn't $11,000 good. So I don't think that we won't be missing out in future years if we decide not to stay with the New York State School Board Association.
You reminded me of something. I was the voting delegate, and with our decision that we made of the last meeting, I ended up having to work on Saturday, and to be honest, I did not attend and did not vote on that. The history has been everything that has been recommended by the committee was approved, so I apologize, I didn't make it. It was a last minute thing, and they don't allow you to just reassign it without board resolution, so I apologize I didn't make that one. And I'm sure every resolution went through as proposed anyway. So I'm glad you learned from that class.
Yep, I learned a lot, yep.
So it's a great thing, and we'll have 2 3/4 years of that education still, so I'm excited for that. Mr. Brecken?
Just that we have legislative committee tomorrow for MCSBA and Chancellor, Regent Norwood and one of the chancellors, or the vice chancellor or something, is going to be at that meeting for kind of a Q&A discussion. So we'll see what that brings. And then the president's meeting is tomorrow.
So is legislative in person?
Yeah, legislative and president's meeting is in person. Yeah, they're using some of the bigger ballrooms in the inn down there.
I will do what I can to attend
Yeah.
the legislative
Should be
tomorrow.
kind of interesting.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Maselli?
I conducted the survey, or the Board of Education tour survey of the administration building as well as transportation. And one of the things, and Nelson, as you well know, does a great job of keeping everything on nuts and bolts together, and we got to see some of the things that are coming as far as our capital projects and the expansion of the parking lots over at transportation. I will say, after doing this for a couple of years, I did work with Canal View, looked at Cosgrove, just think in this board's near future, we need to seriously discuss a large capital project where we have some big rocks that we need to take care of. And it's been a discussion where you're hearing the same thing over and over and over repetitively. Like, this is getting worse. We need to address this. So I think it's time. I know it's never a good time, especially with all the other stuff that we're currently consumed with. But if we need to get a little one out just to get something on the books in our rotation, the next one we need to look at doing something much larger in scale. There's needs that need to be met here. And I'm just trying to do what's best for kids and whatever.
With respect to the admin and transportation, or?
No, just looking at the district in general, I mean, specifically Canal View, Cosgrove, there's just, it's time. It's time. We all these bullets keep coming up the same things and building condition surveys and the things you see and do. There's nothing that's, we go on record, there's nothing that's in disrepair or unsafe or anything like that. It's just, you look at the broader landscape and it's something that this board should consider.
Did you get in the basement?
Yeah.
It
that's what I was gonna ask.
was great.
Did you get down
We
there?
walked all the way down under there.
Awesome down there.
It's really amazing. Yeah, that was my favorite part by a long shot.
So someday you'll have the
Can't wait.
administration building and have the excitement of going into the dungeon down below.
It's
the
awesome.
space we're in right
Mike,
now.
I just want to chime in on that. I fully support what you're saying and agree with that. There is going to come a point in time really soon where we're going to have to look at a big project and have that vision of what we want within the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. And as we all know, that takes planning early. We're going to have to continue to look at this. The building condition survey is a big part of that. And I fully support that we are going to probably need to start looking soon at a big capital project before, sooner before later. And what does that vision look like? Really want to have a vision in place as to how we approach that.
Yeah, given this, the one we're in right now is a huge percentage of it is asphalt, just to fix the
Right.
the roads that were in such bad disrepair.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
And part of that, Gary, too, is we have spent a lot of money on roadways, but we're gonna need more work on roadways coming soon as well. So a lot to think about.
Well, we need, it's not a secret, we need $10 million in roofs. That alone would normally shoot, the last project we went out with was 12.
Yeah.
I mean, so just right there, I can see there's a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
I think we need to get together, like you said, and have a vision for where we want to go with this. But it's just, it's getting time where we're gonna need to do something. I would say that's larger in scale than the usual rotation that we've taken in the past.
And with that large scale, I just think about vision, and have some kind of vision as to how we want to do this, to have a focus, so we stay focused, so the end product is polished.
And it's not just about the planning of it, it's about getting ahead of the communications of that with the community, so they
Absolutely.
understand something's coming.
Yep.
And then there's gonna be a price tag. to it.
Yeah, we have to market that.
Yeah.
We have to market that to the community. We have to have a good marketing plan to do so.
I agree wholeheartedly.
There'll be a lot of questions coming at Rick.
In this whole conversation, Rick was. Okay. Kate, any report?
Nope, not this week.
Thank you. Okay, onward to, this is awesome, the short agenda, superintendent's report, all yours.
And we just have 2 items. Tom gave you a brief update that he would be like Rick in his update on geometry. Not sure what that means. I think that means brief.
Thanks, Mr. Milgate.
Let's go with that.
Setting me up there. Wow. So as you know, this proposal is just to enhance, update an existing course. For many years, we've had geometry accelerated, and the course request is to change it to geometry honors. The rationale behind that is the philosophy of the high school has changed. It used to be that when students were in the accelerated track, as they moved from transition from Cosgrove over to the high school, there was a hope just to keep those students together for mathematics. So it was just really this homogeneous group of students that were in this geometry accelerated class. That philosophy has changed, and I think for the right reasons as well. It's changed because it's provided, it provides students more of an opportunity to enter an accelerated course or an honors course. So you can see right here in terms of the rationale, it really does align with the building's philosophy. Traditionally, students enter that accelerated track for mathematics as they go from 5th to 6th grade. This change allows students to enter, if they're a high-performing student, in a traditional algebra class. Once they enter their freshman year at the high school, they still have the opportunity to enter then that honors track as they make that transition from 9th to 10th grade, as they go from algebra to geometry. So some of the changes, there's some additional topics in our honors program in order to really truly challenge those students. That helps them then move to A2 trig honors. And keep in mind too, that honors terminology is utilized, throughout the high school. The prerequisites, we provide multiple avenues now for students to enter that phase. In addition, students have the opportunity to either demonstrate through academic proficiency in algebra or through a teacher's recommendation, meaning so that child is working really, really hard and the teacher feels that they are up to that challenge of entering that honors course, then that will allow them to do that. Pretty straightforward, just changing that one word from accelerated to honors, and in keeping with, our board policies, any course change that's credit bearing requires board event approval.
So I really like this because you have no idea the amount of confusion it causes with families and parents. The difference between accelerated, honors, and then you have AP. And everyone seems to use the three terms interchangeably. And anyone who has a student that's been through AP, it's not. So yeah, having a distinction there, or at least reducing the number of acronyms out there is helpful. Thank you.
In time, because the honors is going to replace the accelerated. There's not going to be any additional costs, correct?
Zero additional costs involved in terms of curriculum development, training teachers, facilities, equipment, anything, supplies. So.
Motion to approve?
Okay, Mr. Brecken, second, Mr. Michelli, all in favor?
Kate?
Aye.
6-0. Okay. And Brecken, Michelli? Okay. This is awesome.
Okay.
Next one. I thought we were done. One more.
Got one more. So every year we do an enrollment report. It's something we have to do anyhow for BOCES. Last 3 years, Rick has taken that over. This was 4th year doing it. And he did provide you with a spreadsheet that gave you some good details on where we're at. Some interesting things, important things in there are some of our programmatic changes have shifted population. So it's artificially made some schools look like they've gone up or down a little bit, especially elementary. But Rick's got an overview for you and then a special treat as well to help you understand our current enrollment report.
Let's start. Halloween is come and gone, Mr. Pickett. But so instead of me just repeating what you've already read and reviewed in the PowerPoint, my partner in crime, that would be Lynette, took some of the key concepts that I shared with her, and she was able to put together a small video that sort of grabs those concepts about enrollment and why it's so important. So Corey, if you could.
I know the font size is bigger than what you expected from them. But actually, it was a really cool idea when they came up with it. And I forget what it was, Sir Kenneth, those ones on international, I think they're pretty good. But any questions, I think was the final statement there.
Yeah, so really, again, thanks to Lynette, but that did capture it more so than I could have before and in the past. It's very important, these numbers. It impacts a lot of different things that we're doing. So hopefully that conveyed it to you. Last year, I shared with you that we were going to run another sort of a dual enrollment beds process through Forecast 5. Unfortunately, they don't have the data from regarding the live birds. So once they do have that, I will provide that to you. Just again, we're running it concurrently to see where the differences may be. Forecast 5 can pump out some charts that I think are really phenomenal that we can use.
So they'll get data from Monroe County in terms of births and those types of things?
Yeah, they grab that from the state and from each county, and they put that into their particular system.
Yeah.
So then we'll go in, enter the data that we did in our cohort methodology, and it essentially be the same data, but because of live births, it changes the forecast a little bit.
So when does Forecast 5 update that? That'll,
Usually it's already in place by this time. I just think with COVID-19 and the delay and a lot of information getting to the different counties and companies, that's what delayed it. I also just want to share, again, it's almost like our external audit where Beds Day is just a static day of one day in the point of the year. I worked a lot with Trish over the last couple of weeks. These numbers are going to change, but this is sort of that snapshot in which a lot of the aids are calculated upon. I just want to point out that the numbers that I shared with you do not include the half-day pre-kindergarten students as well. That's important. I'm still trying to determine how that will play a role in what numbers we receive back from part of our state aid. And then lastly, Ty can probably address it better than I can, but another thing that's not really captured in here is the number of home instruction students. Information that I got from Trish, it went from 97 last year to 162 at this point. So that also why you're seeing somewhat of a drop of the number of students in seats.
So that was my question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I recall I'm not looking for numbers. I recall at the beginning of the school year in the month of August specifically, we had a big influx of new students. It was over 100.
Yeah, we had about 134 move in and move out, but that's actually not abnormal. That's actually pretty normal. What's abnormal is we lost kids to private schools and home instruction. And I think we're saying that because this year is probably, we hope this year's a blip on the screen, and that a lot of those people did say they're going to home instruct because of not wanting to be in school and wanting to have their kids to have whatever they can get them. So we hope that goes up, and I think that's going to be the case. I don't know about the parochial shift. We have no way of really proving that. We did have some parents literally say, I'll be moving my kids to private school. We had that. We just don't know the true numbers. I don't think we really audited it as we went along. So, but it's, we've been, I think Rick and I said it's between 13 and 17, plus or minus for the last decade. We haven't changed population. It's been within that. So it's like less than half a percent change. So
So we've been studying like 3,600 and change for a long time. I saw that. So the whole thing here is we're at 3,600 and change and we've got 100 and I thought I saw 184 kids that are homeschooling right now, 50 something families. So we've got a lot of kids that could theoretically come back into the fold once this semester blows over.
Well, I mean,
Did the number double? You said it doubled, right?
well, I mean, we've
It went
got,
up about,
Several from 2 years ago.
yeah,
Yep, and actually, we just had 4 new students apply today.
they like their principal.
That's me.
so again, just going full circle here, you guys had a pretty in-depth conversation about the capital project. So when we submit information to SED about capital project and part of the BCS and part of our vision, enrollment plays a factor in that.
Big factor.
So,
Yeah, remember when we had, Modelo report out on doing a new tech center, because our population's not going up, it would receive no aid.
Right, but that, and that's kind of like adding on to our infrastructure, but for maintenance of our infrastructure, do these static numbers have as dramatic an effect?
no, it's, again, it depends on, like, if you're, say the vision was
Build something,
a STEM
Yeah.
project or a field house.
right?
It's going to be very difficult to convince SED. But Dan has the vision of doing what a crosswalk from the middle school to the high school.
Right.
Okay.
Tech
Very,
center.
very difficult to do.
No, I think the board's vision isn't so much that we want to build a new structure for the sake of housing students. I think it's more like enhancements to safety and security, to entrances, to infrastructure, to supporting how we support our students in the classroom and things like that. I think I'm very comfortable with the arrangement we have right now, with the relationship we have. Like, for example, 3015's got a good relationship with the other local robotics groups, and they have a place. And I'm very comfortable with that relationship as well as the cost factor of it.
Yeah, we're not, with that capital improvement, we're not looking to increase square footage at this point.
No.
It's more,
No,
again, it's the maintenance piece, it's keeping our facilities in good condition moving forward, roofs, things along that. So the safety and security we've talked about quite a bit as a focus. Entrance ways to buildings and things like that.
And repurpose the space to meet what needs are today, as opposed to what they have been.
Jamie's got kind of our notes on, we visited each building at the end of last year, or the summer actually, and toured with each principal about what are the beautification things we can do, the entrances, safety combined with that, the entrance procedure, the facade, being able to have an appropriate reception area. Those are things we know that we've talked about. But overall, right now, from doing it the way that we've done it in the past and funding it locally with a reserve, we're just below $1 million, if you remember from Rick's report a few weeks ago, in our reserve. The current project took a little over $3 million to fund locally, and that was only a $12 million project, 12.3, I think. So really, it depends on how the year goes, if we're gonna do it that way. But again, we've also reviewed, and I think that's where we gotta get Rick Timms involved again and talk about, you don't have to fund it locally, but if you don't, you need to think about the timing, when you go out, how you go about that, and the marketing behind it, because it would be a separate increase to the tax base versus what we traditionally do, which is tie it in with a proposition connected to a normal budget vote.
Which again, just goes to, once we get into more budget development, working with BPD, our financial advisor, about restructuring some of the debt that we're going to be taking on, not only with Dan's talking about, but with the tax cap. So there's a lot of variables and moving parts here. We'll talk about our capital project vision and our long-range financial analysis.
So is it that the tax cap could actually prevent us from doing something that we believe is in the best interest of the district?
No,
The taxes would just be
but
higher.
your tax rate is potentially going to increase, but based on the exclusion and where your building aid and your debt service is coming in, that plays a portion of what increase you may or may not want to use as far as the tax cap. So it's going to impact the potential levy amount. We'll do that in a mini session in our budget focus group.
Okay.
That's all we had. 2 updates for tonight's study session, unless there's other questions.
Nice job.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Meeting evaluation, any comments? Great, that's 30 minutes, I like it. So Lori, can you,
I make a motion that we enter executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular person.
Mr. Bracken, all in favor?
Kate?
Aye.
6-0. So. We're recording, so we're out of executive session. Welcome back. Mr. Kincaid,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education approve the resolutions to appoint the interim superintendent of schools and memorandum of agreement as a consent agenda addendum.
second, Mr. Bracken, all in favor?
Kate?
Kate?
All in favor?
Aye.
7-0. Okay, so,
Just make a note.
Jerry, did you second that? Thank you.
yeah, I've got it. So a note into the public meeting that Mr. Javardo entered executive session at 6:40. That's documented. Thank you. So I'm very excited about having Pam Kissel as our interim superintendent. And thank you. And motion to adjourn, Mr. Bracken. Second, Mr. Kincaid, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.